And for that, I'm joined on the set by our business editor, Yuka Roya. Yuka, there's a DNA testing firm. At one time, this was Time magazine's invention of the year, but its fortunes have fallen somewhat. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Alex, attorney generals in several US states have warned users to delete their accounts and protect their data after 23andMe filed for bankruptcy protection and its CEO stepped down on Sunday. The company is best known for its saliva test kits that enable users to track their ancestry, but it has been burning through cash and struggling with the fallout of a massive data leak in 2023. Luke Schrager has more on why the fall of the biotech unicorn is a concern.
23andMe promised to revolutionize the future of genetics.
And how does it work? What does DNA even stand for anyway?
Its home testing kits became popular with millions looking to learn about their ancestry. But as the craze faded, so too did the company's fortunes, and now it's seeking a buyer and bankruptcy protection. The main question now, what will happen to the masses of data on millions of DNA profiles it holds?
The way that 23andMe essentially made its money, it was through the acquisition or the collection of really sensitive information. When the data is the asset of the company, that could be subject to sale or transfer, especially in the event of the bankruptcy.
23andMe's privacy policy did contain a provision that would hold any buyer during a bankruptcy to the same standards. But anyone with a profile ought to understand just what the transfer of data could mean.
DNA is the most personal, it is the most sensitive of all your data. It identifies you or as a member of a family. If it gets in the hands of, for instance, insurance companies, it could impact long-term care, disability, all sorts of things that you don't want.
Biometric data is also useful to criminals when it comes to stealing identities. The company saw a massive breach in 2023 that lasted 5 months and affected nearly 7 million profiles. For now, the company will continue to operate, following a $35 million infusion from an investment firm last weekend. But with any future buyer as yet unknown, legal advice to anyone concerned is to delete your data sooner rather than later.
It's quite terrifying if you've been using those services now, but...
I haven't.
Moving on, I believe there is actually, though, some good news for Australians. They've been getting some tax cuts. Might have something to do with elections coming up soon.
Yeah, in May, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's centre-left government is currently running neck and neck in the polls against the Conservative opposition in that race. As part of a new budget plan, the government proposed 2 new rounds of tax cuts worth 17 billion Australian dollars, or about 10 billion euros. They build on those already introduced last year. The government is also proposing around 5 billion euros worth of investment in public healthcare, an extension to ongoing electricity rebate, extra funding for public schools and reductions of student debt. All this would tip Australia's budget balance back into the red after 2 years of surpluses, but the Finance Minister defended the plan in the face of uncertainties.
The global economy is volatile and unpredictable. Trade disruptions are rising. China's growth is slowing. War is still raging in Europe and a ceasefire in the Middle East is breaking down. Treasury expects the global economy to grow 3.25% for the next 3 years, its slowest since the 1990s. Australia is neither uniquely impacted nor immune from these pressures, but we are among the best placed to navigate them.
Let's have a check on the markets now. Wall Street stocks held on to the previous day's gains amid hopes that US President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs planned for next week might be less severe than initially thought. That sentiment also lifted European markets earlier, with Paris and Frankfurt both gaining more than a full percent, as you can see there. Alex.
Last up, we heard about the misfortunes of the 23andMe, but also earlier on, Tupperware was unable to stay fresh.
Yeah, it went bankrupt last year, but now there's a perhaps a glimmer of hope for that company. But Cedric Meston, who's the co-founder of plant-based meat maker Happy Raw, announced he'd bought 100% of Tupperware France and wants to relaunch the brand in several European countries. The iconic American company was once synonymous with airtight food containers, but filed for bankruptcy last September as its Tupperware home party business model went out of fashion and it lost out in price competitions. After it was taken over by creditors, the company pulled out of most countries it had operated in and revoked licenses across Europe. The new owner, though, says he's confident he can keep its original business model, but more adapted to the digital age.
You can have a Tupperware party at your home or someone else's. And you can also have a cooking demonstration on TikTok, on Live, or on Instagram. There are a lot of people who can do that, and the idea is to capitalize off that.
Do you have Tupperware at home?
I always intend to use it and then end up just throwing things in the fridge and then they go bad. So I'm quite bad for that, but it's always useful. Thank you very much for that, Yuka.